December 22, 1849. On a freezing morning in St. Petersburg, a group of prisoners stood in the courtyard of the Semenovsky regiment. Their hands were tied. A priest held a cross. Soldiers loaded rifles. Among the prisoners stood a 28-year-old writer, pale, shaking, but alert. His name was Fyodor Dostoevsky. He had just minutes left to live. At least, that's what he believed. To understand why one of Russia's greatest writers ended up in front of a firing squad, we have to go back a few years. In the late 1840s, Russia was ruled by Tsar Nicholas I. A regime terrified of revolution. Across Europe, revolutions were exploding. Monarchies were falling, and Russia feared it would be next. Dostoevsky wasn't a revolutionary, but he joined a discussion circle called the Petrashevsky Group. A small gathering where intellectuals debated banned books, utopian socialism, and the future of Russia. The Tsarist police saw this as treason. In April 1849, the entire group was arrested. Dostoevsky was interrogated for months. The charge? Reading and sharing dangerous ideas. In Tsarist Russia, that was enough for a death sentence. On November 16, the verdict was delivered. Death by firing squad, for spreading dangerous ideas. He wasn't a revolutionary. He didn't plan any uprising. But in Tsarist Russia, reading the wrong books was enough to be considered a threat. That day, Dostoevsky wrote to his brother, "I am sentenced to death. I only have a few days left." This was the moment his life truly split in two. On December 22, 1849, Dostoevsky and the others were taken to the parade ground. They were told they were to be shot. Immediately, 3 men were tied to the stakes. Dostoevsky was in the next group. Minutes felt like hours. Soldiers raised their rifles. And then, a horseman rushed in with a letter. A royal pardon. Dostoevsky realized the truth. The execution was never going to happen. It had been staged by Tsar Nicholas I as psychological punishment. Instead of death, the prisoners were sentenced to years of forced labor in Siberia. But the damage and the transformation had already begun. Dostoevsky spent 4 years in a Siberian labor camp, sleeping beside hardened criminals, working in brutal cold, and living in chains. He lost his health, his social status, and nearly his sanity. But something else happened. He discovered the lives of ordinary Russians, exiles, peasants, criminals, the people whose suffering would later fill his novels. He also rediscovered faith. He wrote later, "I was born again on that day." The fake execution wasn't just trauma. It was the moment that reshaped his entire worldview. Dostoevsky left prison with a new mission: to write about the human soul, its darkness, its hope, and its endless contradictions. Before 1849, Dostoevsky was a promising young writer. After Siberia, he became the Dostoevsky we know today. Every masterpiece he later wrote, Crime and Punishment, The Idiot, Demons, The Brothers Karamazov, is infused with themes born directly from that morning in 1849. The weight of guilt, the search for redemption, the psychology of suffering, the fear of death, the miracle of life regained. Even Prince Myshkin in The Idiot describes an execution scene clearly inspired by Dostoevsky's own experience. Had Dostoevsky died that morning, Russian literature and world literature would look entirely different. There would be no Raskolnikov, no Grand Inquisitor, no existential novels that influenced Nietzsche, Kafka, Freud, and even modern psychology. All of it, because the Tsar chose terror instead of bullets. And ironically, the attempt to break Dostoevsky ended up creating one of the most influential writers in human history. Sometimes, a near death doesn't end a life. It begins a new one. Dostoevsky once wrote, "To live without hope is to cease to live." His story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, even at the edge of death, a human soul can rise again.